In 2009, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was released to critical and commercial success. It quickly became one of the most influential first-person shooters of its time. But beyond its action and cinematic storytelling, one mission drew global attention for a very different reason. A mission that many players found difficult to experience, and that some countries chose to censor or remove entirely. That mission is No Russian. Modern Warfare. Two places players in a fictional global conflict involving multiple factions and covert operations. The story is told through different perspectives, often putting the player in morally complex situations. However, most missions follow a familiar structure: combat scenarios, objectives, and progression. No Russian breaks that structure. Instead of a traditional battlefield, the setting is a civilian environment. Instead of clear enemies, the situation becomes intentionally uncomfortable and ambiguous. Before the mission even begins, the game presents a warning. Players are given the option to skip it entirely without penalty. This alone suggests that the developers were aware of its impact. In No Russian, the player takes on the role of an undercover agent. The objective is to gain the trust of a hostile group by participating in their operation. The mission takes place inside an airport. As it unfolds, the player walks alongside the group as events escalate in a way that feels deliberate and unsettling. What makes the mission particularly controversial is not just what happens, but the player's position within it. You are not simply observing events, you are placed directly inside the situation. However, the game does not force active participation. Players can choose how they respond, including limiting their involvement or simply moving forward. Despite this, the experience remains difficult for many due to its tone and setting. The reaction to No Russian was immediate and widespread. Critics questioned whether such content belonged in a video game. Some argued that it crossed a line, while others defended it as a bold narrative choice. In Russia, the mission was either heavily modified or removed in certain versions of the game. Other regions required additional warnings or edits before release. The developers behind Modern Warfare 2 have stated that the purpose of No Russian was not to entertain in the traditional sense. Instead, it was meant to serve the story, to show the consequences of extremism, and to create a moment that players would not easily forget. The mission also plays a role in the larger narrative, influencing events that follow. From this perspective, it can be seen as an attempt to push the boundaries of storytelling in games. Rather than presenting conflict in a simplified way, it introduces moral discomfort and forces the player to reflect on their role. Regardless of opinion, No Russian had a lasting impact on the gaming industry. It sparked discussions about the limits of interactive media. It raised questions about responsibility, realism, and player choice. After its release, more games began including content warnings and options to skip certain scenes. Developers became more aware of how sensitive topics are presented. The mission is still referenced today when discussing controversial moments in gaming history. More than a decade later, No Russian remains one of the most talked about missions in video games. Some view it as unnecessary and overly provocative. Others see it as a meaningful attempt to explore difficult themes. Ultimately, its impact comes from how it makes the player feel. Not excitement, but reflection. And perhaps that is why it continues to be remembered.